Hey, what's up everybody? This is Superbrick501 and today I want to go over some new massive leaks we've gotten for Diablo 4. So recently there was around an hour of leaked gameplay footage from the friends and family beta for Diablo 4, and I want to go over a ton of new information we could glean from watching this new footage. So first off, you won't be seeing any of that leaked gameplay in this video. I obviously am not going to be able to post any of that content. I can't show any of the footage, and I won't even have any screenshots or screen captures or anything from this. All the footage in this video is just going to be random Diablo 4 trailers or gameplays, so this is more of a sit down and listen video. You don't really have to watch anything. And also keep in mind, all of this stuff is still work in progress. All of this stuff could potentially change by the time the game is released, and I also do think this footage was a little bit older than a lot of people may think it is, but just keep that in mind. Even though a lot of the stuff is probably somewhat set in stone, it could all potentially change. And I just wanted to quickly mention how good the game looks, and what I'm talking about with this is the graphics, the atmosphere, the sound design, the combat, the spell animations. All of that side of the game just looks incredible. Even in this leaked footage, there was literally a Discord recording, so it was not very high quality. I'm pretty sure it was 720p. The game still looks really good. You can see this with any of the trailers or officially released gameplay. All of that side of the game just looks incredible, and that's no different here. And we even got to see some new abilities that I've never seen before, and all that stuff just looks pretty incredible. And the first thing I wanted to go over is what is called Renown. Now this seems to be a kind of zone or region completion system in the game, and this player was in Hawazar, and they currently had 22 out of 1100 Renown. Now to get this Renown, you can do a bunch of different stuff. This player was getting it through doing quests and just doing different objectives and discovering certain things out in the world. And it has a list of different things that'll give you Renown. So first off, you have your waypoints or your teleporters. There was 6 of those. You have something else next to that that looks kind of like a demon gate or something like that. That was 0 out of 3. Not sure what that is. They have 0 out of 24 for side quests. And I'm thinking these are side quests because it is a blue exclamation point, and side quests are also blue in the quest journal. Then there was 6 out of 30 for another symbol that I don't know what it is. Kind of looks like an eye with triangles up, down, left, and right. Not sure what that is. 0 out of 22 dungeons, and 0 out of 34 lost caches. And we'll go over lost caches a little bit later on in the video, but the lost caches are essentially chests that will give you some stat bonuses. And also something interesting with the dungeons is this player actually had quite a few dungeons shown on their map, but still had 0 out of 22. So I'm not sure if the completion on these is just entering the dungeons, discovering them, or if this 0 out of 22 is completing those dungeons. But there does also seem to be renown rewards for doing these different objectives, because there is a keybind to show rewards, and this player has rewards ready to be collected. So it seems that these region completion objectives are also going to be giving you rewards, which I definitely think can add a lot to an open world type of game. And also something to note, besides the dungeons, most stuff is not shown on the map. I think it was pretty much only dungeons and a few teleporters that this player could actually see the symbols on their map, and only in the areas they've went to before that has the fog of war removed, showing the actual paths of that area. Everything else isn't on the map, so there's going to be quite a lot of exploration with this system. Now just a quick one to go over. In Diablo 4 there's going to be a ton of different resources you can get from different things out in the game. Certain resources are only going to come from killing certain enemies, but there's also going to be gathering out in the open world. And what was shown in this leaked footage is that you actually don't have like a gathering bar, say from other MMOs where it may take a second or a few seconds to gather something. It's you just click on it and then it drops that resource on the ground. And there was recent leaks that seem much more legitimate after seeing this, because it said the gathering was going to be super quick as to not slow down the pace of the combat, and that seems to be what this is doing. So certain resources, you're just going to be going out in the world and you click a gatherable node and it pops up the resources, and certain resources are only obtained from certain creatures or enemies out in the world. And next up, we got to see a bunch of vendors and NPCs at some of the towns that the player went to. And first off, we got to see a bunch of options at the Alchemist. Now the first one was upgrade potion making. So it seems like potions in Diablo 4 are going to work in a little bit of a different way. So first off, this player could only hold 5 potions at a time, and if the player used potions, you would commonly get them back from killing. Now the upgrade system at the Alchemist is that every certain amount of levels, so say like 5 or 10 levels or something, you'll have the ability to make an upgraded version of the potion. And this seems to be just a permanent upgrade on that character. So it's not like you're crafting actual potions, you're just crafting an upgrade to your potion system. So all the potions you'll get will be the upgraded version, and it takes different resources to upgrade these potions. And all these potions, or at least some of the starter level ones, seem to give you a smaller burst of healing and then an additional percent health healing over time, and that gets stronger as you upgrade them. But they didn't scroll over any of the endgame potions, so it's possible that endgame potions have additional effects. And then the next tab was crafting elixirs, which had a ton of different elixirs with different names. And the few we got to look at was poison resist, that also gave a 3% XP increase. So it seems like a lot of these potions will also be giving XP increases as like a secondary effect. And it did seem like there was a lot of elixirs you could keep scrolling through. So there's a possibility that even into later into the game, that constantly having one of these up may be good because it'll give you additional XP, and that could potentially be something that you want to keep having up until level 100. And you also got resistance potions for all the other resistances. There was assault potions, crushing potions, and precision potions. That's just some of the names. We don't know what a lot of those do, but all of those elixirs you would assume would be giving different buffs and different effects you could use as like an activatable combat buff out in the world. And these are going to cost different resources. So adding in some of that more MMO RPG-ish crafting systems. Then the next tab is refining. So this is just where you would refine different materials you go out and get in the world. So refining leather, herbs, smelting ingots, stuff like that, you refine at the Alchemist. But then the final tab is also very interesting. So the final tab is incense. Now these all seem to be group buffs. And the one that was scrolled over is it increases your fire and shadow resistances by 15% and your armor by 75 for 20 minutes. So this is a pretty big buff, and it's also for your entire group. So again, adding a little bit more of that MMO group buffing. Now, I'm not sure how these work. Will you be able to just get all of them and stack all of them up on yourself? That's something I assume probably wouldn't be able to work, but also maybe would each person in the group be able to cast their own incense and give everybody that buff? So maybe you could have like 4 buffs up. You have a group of 4 that all use a different incense. Not sure on that, but it also seems like there's a bunch of different named ones. So there's probably going to be a ton of additional effects with those as well. Now the blacksmith was shown to pretty much be the exact same thing it was in Diablo 3. So you can go there to repair your items, you can go there to craft weapons, craft armor, and to salvage enemies you don't want. And they have the exact same salvaging system. So you could salvage one item at a time by selecting them, or you can salvage all of the same rarity of item all in one press. So pretty much the exact same blacksmith from Diablo 3. And then next up, a vendor that I don't think we've heard anything about is the Purveyor of Curiosities. Now this vendor allows you to buy randomized items for any single slot in the game. So any weapon, any armor slot, all your jewelry slots. And it seems to be this game's version of the Bloodstone vendor from Diablo 3, where you go get those bloodstones. So you can try to target a specific loot or a specific loot slot that you want. Now you buy these items with Murmuring Obols, which is a currency you get for completing events out in the open world. And this player already had around 100. So it seems like you get these somewhat quickly if you're doing these random events that pop up out in the open world. And there was also a tip that popped up when the player went to this vendor that said there is also a small chance to obtain a valuable item when buying any of these items. So I'm assuming that's probably just like a legendary or unique item. So a much more higher rarity of item. So this is essentially another kind of gambling vendor, but something to note with this is this doesn't seem to be the gambling vendor that has been talked about before, because with some recent leaks we went over, it was said that there's going to be a gambling vendor that is based on gold, and that you will also be able to sell unidentified items to this vendor for even more gold for specifically unidentified items. Now those are just leaks, so this could potentially be the only gambling vendor in the game, but a lot of that information in that leak came pretty true when seeing actual leak footage for the game. There is a potential that there are 2 types of gambling vendors, one specifically for gold, and then one, this Purveyor of Curiosities, that's specifically for events out in the open world. And we also got to see the stables or the stable master. character. Now this is where you'll go to, I guess, choose between your different mounts. You'll also be able to customize your different mounts with saddles. They'll look to generally be like different types of horse armor, probably also going to have a lot of cosmetic stuff there. And then trophies, which we've also seen before. But essentially when you're just playing throughout the game, say you kill a big boss or a certain creature or do a certain main objective, you'll get different trophies that you can put on your horse. So different cool saddlebags, or hang heads off the side of your horse, or maybe have like a flagpole on your horse, stuff like that to kind of show off different accomplishments you've done throughout the game and add another way to customize your different mounts. And something to note, and this was a warning in the stables, that you actually don't unlock mounts until you complete the campaign. And this is something we already knew. So once you complete the campaign, which is said to be around level 50, you will then be able to get mounts and start customizing those mounts. There was also a vendor tab at the stables, but the player never went into that, so not sure what that is. Most likely would be maybe some starter horses, maybe some different cosmetics you could get from the stables itself. And there was also a ton of different vendors and NPCs in this town. The player did go to a weapon vendor, which is just random weapons that cycle through on a timer. So maybe when you're leveling up, maybe you'll find some good weapons in there. But there was a ton more of different NPCs with their symbols on the map, but the player just never went to any of those. But it does seem like there's going to be a ton of additional stuff in these towns. And next up, we got a little bit of information from a tip in one of the loading screens. And this was the different colors of combat text. So yellow is a critical hit, blue is an overpower, and orange is a critical hit combined with overpower. The critical hit is self-explanatory. Overpower, I'm pretty sure, is a damage increase based off of your current health. I'm not actually exactly sure on how overpowered works, but then orange is the combination of the two. And then next up, we got some new information on quests, and more specifically main quests. Now it seems like main quests are going to be spread throughout the different regions in the game, because this player had a handful of these different main quests throughout the one region they were in. And when accepting one of these main quests and you go through the quest dialogue, you talk to the character, the actual quest itself doesn't show you the exact location of what you're looking for. It actually sends you to an area and then has a big circle in that area where you have to go and find what you're looking for. And since it's not pointing you to the exact spot and item you're looking for is, you will actually have to pay attention and at least read the objective you're looking for, and probably read the quest or pay attention to the voice lines to know what you're looking for. And personally, I think this is a lot better than what a lot of MMOs have had for probably the past decade, where it's essentially, it shows you basically the exact location you're going to. Sometimes it'll show you a big circle, but that's generally if you're looking for multiples of an item and these items will just spawn in that area, or if you're killing enemies in a certain area. But needing to actually know the quest you're on, maybe read the quest text to actually figure out what you're looking for in this big area, I think that generally makes the experience of questing more enjoyable, because it's not as mindless and you're actually having to put some thought into what you're doing. Now, it does also seem that there are orange circles on your map, and it seems these are the random events that pop up. And like we talked about before, there are side quests that seem to be colored blue, but this player really didn't do any of those, so not sure how those are going to play out. But I would presume they're probably going to be along the same lines. You're going to go somewhere and it's not going to show you the exact spot and item is at, so you have to pay attention to the quests a bit more. So as I mentioned when we were going over Renown at the start of the video, there was something in the Renown system in the game called a lost caches, and they're shown as chests in the Renown, and I think there was around 30 of them in that specific region the character was in. Now these lost caches seem to be just chests or interactable items you have to go find throughout the world. They're not shown on your map. I don't think they ever get shown on your map until you actually open them, and then it will show an open chest in that location, and they're like these glowing items you go click. Now these are going to be very important, because once you get a cache, you actually get a permanent stat buff for every character on that realm. And when the specific cache was open, it gave +2 strength to every character on that realm. Now realm seems to be just the game type you're on. So if you're on just the normal realms when the game comes out, you're not on hardcore, any character you make on that is going to be on that realm. Most likely hardcore will also be on a separate realm from that, and then seasonal stuff will all be on its own realm as well. So this is definitely going to be some additional long-term progression to get some additional stats. Now later into the game, when all the guides are out and stuff, most likely a lot of people are just going to want to get this done as quickly as possible. They're going to go look up a guide. They're just going to run around and grab all these. But it does seem something like this is a little bit inspired by Lost Ark. They had tons of different like collectible discover things like this that could also give you stats or other good items. And this also gave the player a chunk of XP, and it's part of the Renown system. So the player also got, I think, 5 Renown for this. Then we got some additional information on weapon leveling, and we actually got to see that this system exists in one of the quarterly updates. They were showing some footage, and the character got a weapon level upgrade, and in that specific quarterly update, that new weapon level gave 2% increased overpower damage, and we got to see 2 additional weapon level ups that gave different effects. So first off, they leveled up their sword to level 1, and this gave them a hit effect which has a 1% chance to gain 5 fury from hitting a crowd controlled enemy, and that doubles when using 2 swords. Then they also got a 2-handed sword level up to level 5 that causes 10% of direct damage you deal to inflict a bleed over 5 seconds. So 10% of all damage you deal with that 2-handed sword is now also a bleed, and it does also seem like with this 2-handed sword that abilities causes that bleed, so that can be pretty strong. Now something to note with this system is the 2 times I have seen this, it has both been on barbarians. So we're not sure if this is something specific to the barbarian, because the barbarian is the arsenal class. Their unique class ability is actually being able to have 4 different weapons equipped and switching between them when using specific abilities that require different weapons. So we're not sure if this is for all classes or just the barbarian. And also when the barbarian went into one of their menus, this was also the menu where their skill tree was in, there was a tab for expertise, which showed all of their different weapon levels. So again, not sure if this is just for the barbarian or other classes, but a pretty interesting system nonetheless. And then next up, we got to see some of the scrolls that are going to be in the game. So first off, we got to see town portal scrolls, returns the player to the town, and also creates a portal in the town where you can click that portal to go back to where you were. Pretty common. But then we got some newer ones. So we got summoning scrolls, which summons party members to your location. Now, I'm not sure if this is summons just a party member or if summons all members in your party to you. Then finally, we got wayfinding, and this is a scroll that returns you to the dungeon entrance. So this is pretty nice. So once you complete a dungeon, kill the boss at the end, you can just use a wayfinder scroll to go to the start of the dungeon. So instead of needing to go to town and then maybe go out from town, you can just go to the start of the dungeon and either maybe go out and reset the dungeon, however that's going to work, or just go to the open world and go on from there. Now the last thing I wanted to mention is how rarely items were dropping. Now this was 38 minutes of gameplay and there was only a handful of rare items that dropped, and this character was I think level 30 at the start or right around level 30, so low 30s. And they also killed a boss, did a few quests, and were generally running around killing things for most of this 38 minutes, and there was only a handful of rares to drop. There were quite a bit more magic items that drop, but only getting a handful of rares at low 30s in around 40 minutes while also killing a boss in a dungeon is actually pretty crazy. And that's almost the complete opposite of Diablo 3. Diablo 3, you would be getting just showered with items by this point. And they didn't get any higher rarity items. They didn't get any legendaries, any set items, or any uniques. And I'm assuming there's probably also going to be like rare resources and other items like that that can also drop from enemies. So this also seems to be another spot where those previous leaks we went over are pretty true. That it's not just going to be raining loot everywhere. Loot is going to be much more rare than it was in Diablo 3, which in my opinion is definitely a really good thing. But that's pretty much all I want to go over for this new leak gameplay. There was still some additional new information, stuff like some new stats I've never seen on items and smaller stuff like that. I didn't want to go into just all the most minute detail. Mainly wanted to go over kind of the bigger systems and the stuff that was a little bit more interesting. I think we got a ton of new information from this video. And in general, I think Diablo 4 is shaping up to be pretty good. Like I mentioned, I think just the atmosphere, the graphics, the graphical style, quality of the graphics, the animations, the sound design, all that type of stuff is pretty incredible with this game. I think that's actually something I want to go over in a video because I think that side of of the game, pretty much objectively really good. But then also with how rare items are seeming to be, a lot of the exploration they seem to have in a game, the more involved questing, all that stuff seems to be going in the right direction. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Comment down below what you guys think about all this new leaked information. And thanks for watching.